Hello everybody, AJ Soccer here, back with another episode of Modern Maniacs. I hope you all had an amazing holiday and a happy new year. Try not to be too jealous of my amazing diamond shirt I got for Christmas, but we're back for some Magic the Gathering. So, Seance, if you are not up on the happenings with Seance, this is a card. Now, let's take a look at it first. It's a weird enchantment with a bunch of people sitting around a Ouija board. And at the beginning of each upkeep, you may exile target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, put a token onto the battlefield as a copy of that card, except it's a spirit in addition to its other creature types. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So you just get a token for a half a turn. So basically it's just an excuse to trigger comes into play abilities. Now what's interesting about this card is it's kind of a pet card, a Timmy card, a Johnny card, but some person on the internet, some eccentric mogul, a while back, maybe a year or so ago, paid people to destroy their copies of Seance, to light them on fire and record it and send it to him, and he paid them to do it. And now, a year later, with 2016's first Pro Tour being Modern, that person, presumably the same person, has come back forward saying that they will invest in paying a professional qualified for the Pro Tour to build a deck around Seance and play it in that Pro Tour. So, weird social experiment, weird economics experiment, whatever it is, Seance has become this weird thing thanks to this Reddit drama. And so, leading up to Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch, Pro Tour Oath, I decided to try my hand at some seancing. So I think I'm going to have time for 3 attempts at this. At the very minimum, I'll get 2 in before the Pro Tour, but I do have 3 ideas for decks, and this is the first one I'm going with. So it's just like a blue-red control deck that uses Seance as its sort of card advantage engine. So, let's do the spells first. The control cards are 4 Path, 1 Bolt, 1 Izzet Charm, and where's the Pierce? And a Pierce. Pretty normal. The numbers are just, I have some 1-ofs because of the Snapcaster Mages, along with the Seances, and you actually go through your decks super fast. So having the powerful 1-ofs, which is one of my favorite deck building principles. I'll have to write about it soon, since I talk about it so much in these videos. But, yep, that's the control suite. And then 4 Faithless Looting, fill the graveyard, card advantage engine, or card selection engine, I suppose. And Thought Scour, same thing, fill the graveyard, bunch of cantrips. You can hit creatures to Seance back, or the Faithless Looting, or control cards to Snapcaster Mage. Serum Vision's obviously just the best cantrip, and you gotta find these seances somehow. Jace is excellent, both with the control element and filling your graveyard, and just card selection, helping find seance. Jace is just like the reason that I want to play blue. A lot of the prospective builds I've seen in the Reddit threads around Seance have been, black, red, white. And I am going to try that at some point, but I really wanted to play blue because of Thought Scour, Serum Visions, and Jace, as well as Muldrifter, which is great. It's a pretty sweet curve to evoke Muldrifter on 3 into Seance, getting back Muldrifter on 4. Wall of Omens is kind of just another Muldrifter that costs 1 less. And then 2 Snapcaster Mages for the control element, and you can also use it with the Seance pretty effectively. Vendilion Click, another card that curves into the Seance pretty well and works with the Seance reasonably well. you know, sometimes against the combo deck, they'll have a key card, and being able to Vendilion click a couple times might be the difference between winning and losing. Monastery Mentor is the real sort of win condition of the deck. All these 1-mana spells and cantrips and whatnot, and you can just Seance it back and play a couple spells, and then you have 2 or 3 prowess monks, and that should be enough to finish the game. So pretty effective, pretty just awesome card that happens to work well with what we're doing anyway. The Seance is obviously. Venser is kind of a catch-all. I thought about maybe an Ashen Rider or something like that, but I like the fact that you can cast the Venser. It's pretty useful. And not only can it bounce problematic permanents, but with Emiria Shepherd, you can actually do it at instant speed, which brings us to Emiria Shepherd, which is sort of the top-end card to get back. If you're not familiar with this card, it is... If landfall, you get a permanent card, a non-land permanent card back to your hand, but if it's a plains, then it comes into play. So with the mana, you can have like fetch lands in play, or I have flagstones and ghost quarter, and you can sort of Seance the Shepherd instead of seancing, say, your Muldrifter, and then use the Shepherd to get back 2 creatures, and at instant speed, which helps utilize both the Venser and the Snapcaster Mage. Jace doesn't work well with Seance, but if you Seance the Emirian Shepherd and then get back to Jace, you can flip it. So that's kind of just the big, like, finisher, I guess. The card that actually kills them is going to be the Mentor, I assume, but the Emiria Shepherd is sort of the max, like, critical mass Seance. All right, now I can explode my board with all of the card advantage and land drops and stuff that I've been making. And then Sphinx of the Lost Truths is just another card. It's theoretically castable, though 5 mana sorcery speed, not necessarily something you want to be doing. But draw 3, discard 3 is great with the Seance. I played a 2-man. My original build had 4 Muldrifters, but I was getting Muldrifter flooded, so I went down to 2 Muldrifters, added a Wall of Omens and a Sphinx of Lost Truths so that you have more variety. Again, as you're powering through your deck, you're going to have more options, and being able to keep the Seance engine going with the Sphinx is more worthwhile than the ability to evoke multiple times, if that makes sense. Or evoke the times that you draw the Sphinx instead of the Muldrifter, so that's why I'm splitting those up that way. And then the mana base, ooh, come on, Moto. The mana base is pretty straightforward. I have 9 fetches, I think. Yeah, 1 Tarn and the 4 Strand. So 9 fetches, 4 or 5 duels? 5 duels. 3 Hollowed Fountain and 1 of each of the other 2. For basics, 2 planes, obviously the most important. Another thing about the basics is with the Ghost Quarter and Paths, having a bunch of basics is actually good. I assume that I'm going to be pathing my own creatures a decent amount of the time. You know, you Seance back your Muldrifter, and then the token just goes away. Why not turn it into a Rampant Growth against a combo deck where you're not going to need the path? You have plenty of uses for the extra mana. You might get a Monastery Mentor trigger out of it, etc. So I wanted lots of basics. Blood Moon's also a thing. Then Ghost Quarter and Celestial Colonnade and Lighthouse. When you're drawing, theoretically, you're drawing a ton of cards, and a lot of those cards are naturally going to be lands. And so having ways to convert your lands into resources when you have a huge amount of cards is pretty valuable. I would say essential for a deck like this. And even though we have looters and faithless lootings and stuff to make use of extra lands, not only do these lands help you do that further, but they also make use of the land drop, which is another resource that you want to be able to utilize. If you're making all your land drops, then you want to be able to put those to use, you know, like that's only good if you can do something with it. And then the Flagstones is just for the Ghost Quarters, so you can do some cool Emiria Shepherd tricks. Sideboard's a little crazy. Again, it's a lot of one-ofs because you power through your deck really fast and you just want varied effects that are high impact. Even if they're high cost, you want high impact. So that's why we have one cleric, one lone missionary, just for burn and aggro. I have them split because why not, you know? And then Kami of Ancient Law and Ingot Chewer to play with the Seance to deal with those permanent types, along with Wear Tear, which deals with both permanent types and plays well with the Snapcasters and Jaces. 2 Dispels and a Negate, pretty obvious for combo and control. Another Venser, I wanted this to be an Ashen Rider or something like that, but again, I'm pretty sure that just being able to cast it is going to end up being more valuable. So just the second copy of Venser, it's probably going to come in almost every matchup just as a sort of hedge type card. Fulminator Mage, great against Amulet, quite good against Tron. Curve it into Seance. We're going to have a really cool Fulminator Seance deck a little later on, but for now, just one of in the sideboard. The double red is a little annoying, but I think this effect is strong enough in the matchups where it's good that it's worth the sacrifice. I'd rather play the Fulminator, where the life is probably not going to matter against something like Amulet to fetch out the extra shock land, but the extra turn might matter versus something like an Avalanche Riders instead of the Fulminator. Speaking of destroying lands, Crumble to Dust, again, when you're powering through your deck, when you have Jaces and Snapcasters, high impact sorceries, super, super good. Crumble to Dust, just great against Tron, all sorts of Tron, and okay against Amulet as well, so that's why that's there. Same with Pyroclasm, but for creatures. Vandal Blast as the extra Wear Tear that plays really well with the Jaces, where you can actually overload it and blow out the affinity decks, or just, cast it for 1 mana against something like Amulet. And then 2 Rending Volleys mostly for Twin, though I assume they have some other uses as well. So that is the first Seance deck. The only thing that I'm worried about going into this, I'll tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried that we're going to be able to do a bunch of things and have a bunch of cards, but none of them are going to do anything. I kind of wanted to fit like a couple like mana leaks in there just so you can do something, but there's not really any room, and I'm not sure that that's how we're going to lose, or that's one of the ways we're going to lose, but it's just a concern that I have, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah.